the sponsors, and so on. A lot of these are repeated again in Appendix 11, but this is, as I said, unavoidable. What does DSMC do when such a report is received? It convenes a meeting of its members and does a causality assessment. The main points for causality assessment are they take into consideration the temporal association, alternative explanation for serious adverse event, and biological plausibility of the serious adverse event. Based on these three main points, we make a judgment about the relatedness of the serious adverse event to the intervention that was made in the trial. We usually do not give a very black and white kind of statement. We can never say with certainty whether it was related to the intervention or not. We rate it as probable, possible, or unlikely. There are certain criteria which help us do it, and then accordingly we make a judgment about whether it makes a case for compensation or not. Reimbursement for clinical trial for the expenditures for medical management are usually always made if required. What do? With this report of the minutes of the meeting, with the findings of the meeting, they are conveyed to the Drug Controller General of India, and also a copy is sent to the investigator. It is the Drug Controller General of India which will forward it to the expert committee which has been made by the CDE, the government or the office which looks into it. And this expert committee finally tells whether a compensation is required or not and how much compensation needs to be given. We don't give any comment on how much compensation needs to be given. What else does DSMC receive? Besides this, DSMC also receives a tabulated summary of what are called CIOMS forms, which tell about the serious adverse events occurring across all the centers which are conducting that trial. Why is it important? We not only receive them, we scrutinize them. We see if there is any particular adverse event which is occurring at an increased frequency. There has been, as an example, where we have requested the investigator to write to the sponsor regarding the analysis of that particular adverse event, and we got a reply from the sponsor regarding that. They actually did undertake that analysis. One thing we want to clear, this is not to be confused with the conventional DSMC. Each of these multi-centric trials would have their own DSMC, which would be stationed somewhere else, where their job is to carry out interim analysis for making go-no-go decisions. This is not what we do. Our concern is mainly SAE. We are part of Institute Ethics Committee, and we have been constituted by the Institute for all the trials which have been approved by the Extramural Ethics Committee. And we have to call meeting each and every time the SAE occurs at our site. Just to give you a brief idea about what are the kind of compensations that can be given, what is the range in which the compensation amount may lie. It may lie from anywhere between 4 lakhs to 73.60 lakhs. This formula has been calculated by a specific committee which was under the office of CDSU. They came up with this formula where a base amount of 8 lakh was decided, and then there were, depending on the risk factors and then just depending on the age, several scales were given, and this is the kind of compensation that can be ordered. However, one has to know that you don't have to pay it out of your pocket. So ensure that your trial is insured. If the trial is adequately insured, it has to come from the sponsor. It is not your responsibility to give the compensation. You have to just ensure that the procedures for compensation are followed. What about SAEs occurring in academic trials, most of which go to the intramural committee? They are, as of now, they are not treated differently. But we are not looking for it, so those SAEs do not get reported to us. Professor Roy Chaudhary had made a recommendation that an institutional corpus to meet the need for compensation should be made, and they should look for such serious adverse events which are occurring in the other academic trials. With this, I would like to thank you. Welcome any questions if you have. Yeah, if there are any questions.
Reporting of the critical area. The chairman must be informed of that. The next subject to be brought, that the income must come. It has happened here that first interrupted half an energy and totally.
So far we have not called off any project because of serious adverse events, because by and large the investigators are following, with a few exceptions, by and large investigators are following the time frames for reporting. So how many? Fatal, non-fatal?
Fatal, 10 cases.
Fatal, I think there were 3 fatal cases, but causality was not there for any one of those.
My only suggestion is that because in DCJ we follow the WHO scale, so whether you need to put in WHO scale because we also incorporate with PGIMER program.
So WHO categorization is there, WHO scale is not there, but Naranjo scale is some things which are followed. WHO categorization is possible, probable and unlikely I have taken from them, because rest of the categories usually don't figure in. Certain will never occur, will never re-challenge. So,
following the WHO scale.
so these 3 are from the WHO only. We've taken it here because these will cover most of the cases. WHO categorization, categorization.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. I now request Dr. Subhash Sharma for the concluding remarks.
Good afternoon. We are already 43 minutes past time. Therefore, I will not take a lot of your time. We've come a long way from the presentations. You can see that we have monitoring systems in place and we have approval systems in place. Way back in mid-80s when I was the secretary, we first time started talking about the Helsinki Statement. It used to be an in-house committee that used to look at all the ethical problems, and now you have several committees that are looking at different parts of the ethical problems. And that's Professor Chuk says that we are actually changing with times and we are not really stuck in time. And that's what you said we need to continue to do, and I think we will need to continue to do that for a period of time. For all of us, biomedical research ethics and biomedical ethics could be somewhat different. First of all, we must make a distinction between law and ethics. Ethics are the tenets with which a professional actually tends to work, for which there are no laws. That is your inner moral working that you bring in. So for a researcher, the ethics is an honest research, and that honest research could only come if you follow certain tenets. So one of the tenets for drug trials is good clinical practice. That comes from Helsinki trial. For the laboratory work, these are good laboratory practices, because it's almost imperative for us to say that whatever we are doing, we are actually following those, and we are also monitoring those. But if all of us were actually thinking of doing this monitoring would not actually be required. This is required predominantly because we tend to go away from this for several reasons, whether you want to publish or you want to do many other things. Another area of biomedical ethics or research that we have not really talked about, we have talked about inter-institutional collaboration, but we have not really talked about inter- and intra-departmental issues that tend to come up in the area of research, where the research is actually multidimensional. So it's not one person's data, it's not two persons' data, sometimes it's 10 persons' data. And sometimes we say, since I was doing this, it's my data. Right? So, but there are people involved in actually giving you that data. I'll give you an example. If you were to do something on an autopsy material, that data is not come just because you have the material with you. That has come through the efforts of several other people who have actually gotten you that data. This is only an example. Similarly, if I say that I want to take everything in my emergency, but people have come through different areas. And those are the areas of ethical conflicts. And one of the things that we need to do for ethics committee is to resolve ethical conflicts, and that's the other area. So I personally believe that many of these things actually need to go to ethics committee. There was a question whether we have departmental ethics committees. There are departmental research committees which look at the research that is going out of the department. But they are not truly the ethics committees in the sense that we are not really looking at whether someone else was involved in it. So if there were 10 departments or 4 departments that are involved, that cannot be decided in a departmental ethics committee. That most likely, that kind of research will have to come back to the institutional ethics committee. But I think these are the questions that have been raised today, and we need to look at them a little more carefully. I had several points noted down, but I think we are already past time. Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Please join us for tea. The running tea is still going.